we are live. Welcome to the RedBlue Pod number 27, I think, or 26. I actually lost the count. So you can now present yourself, co-host.
Yeah, Cole as always, yep.
So today we got three topics. Sin City 2005, Legion 3rd Season, and V for Vendetta 2005. So, how was your week, man?
Pretty good. Also, actually, one second, my fucking neighbors are being too loud. I'm gonna yell at them for like 2 minutes or a minute. Keep talking, so.
Okay, perfect. So, I guess he has bad neighbors. Now, today we got a lot of things to talk about, including Sin City, as I mentioned earlier, and I actually enjoyed Sin City a lot. I cannot wait to hear out what Cole has to say about Sin City. Just pulling up my notes. Okay. There we are. I have my notes ready, and we are just waiting for Cole to come back. I am wondering.
Yeah, I'm back. Hopefully, I don't have to fucking yell at them again. There'll still be some bitching, but hopefully, it won't be as bad. Literally, right as you said, and we are live, they started going.
Oh man, I feel sorry for you. You look to have like such bad neighbors, man.
And it has happened in Canada as well, and now it's happening here. And it's always the same thing. It's always like these two cracker ass fucking people in a relationship. Like, you're fucking sexist. I know you're a fucking bitch. I don't give a fuck. Shut the fuck up.
Moral: don't go with the first one that wants a relationship. Choose wisely.
Yep.
So, did you like Sin
City?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I really love Sin City. Now is that the one we're starting with, I guess?
Yeah. After that, we cover Legion.
Nice. Okay, so yeah, again, I don't know how other people think of it, but again, here's the thing. There are some other comic books who have done the same sort of thing, but what I really like about Sin City the most, honestly, is the fact that it literally is a direct copy of the comic books, basically page by page. It shots its entire style, and it doesn't just copy it and then say it's good because it copied the comics directly. Like, because it's a film as well. You have to actually be skilled and actually make it look good, because not everything from the comics can be adapted well. Like, that's the issue I have with Zack Snyder's Watchmen. A lot of people overly praise that because of that, but it doesn't mean the film itself was like amazing or anything. But this, on the other hand, I did think so. And yeah, not only was Robert Rodriguez a director who's a director with kind of a weird career. It's like he does an amazing film, and sometimes with Quentin Tarantino every film, and then he does like just 2 films after that, which are.
You just got off. Which of? This is where you got off. Do you still hear me? What happened? No! Cole! You got off! I will message him to see if he can see that. So, yes, computer's issues. Let's just hope it can be fixed, please. It's so sad, man, if this happens. So, this is a weird start for a RedBlue Pod. A very weird start. Are you coming back at us, Cole? Are you able to fix that? I see that mic going on and off, but there's no voice. So, is it working now? Oh, I will actually try again the call so we can end this one and boom. Do you hear me? Oh, now I see you green. Do you hear me?
Can you hear me? I
Yeah.
can hear you.
Now you are coming. So
God,
you just
Jesus,
got up.
fuck. Anyway, when did I cut off at?
You were. I actually forgot.
Alright, because I was talking about, yeah, like one thing I really love about this is it copies pretty much the comics, like stories from Frank Miller, page by page, pretty much exactly in the style and like the shots of it and everything, the visual aspects, pretty much page by page. And again, some other comic book films have done this before, and that doesn't automatically make them amazing to me just because you copy the source material like 100%. Like Watchmen did that, Zack Snyder's Watchmen, and it doesn't mean it was an amazing film. There were gifs with it, it's just because it's also a film still, and some things might not adapt well onto the screen from the comics, and you still have to, make it look good. It can't just be, like making it look identical. But this, on the other hand, was the probably the only time where they both did that and they made it look amazing. I really love that. It's just completely ripped from the pages. From Frank Miller, and I believe Robert Rodriguez brought him on as to be a director as well on all the Sin City related films, I believe, which is interesting. He's co-director, I believe, has the credit for all of them, so that's interesting. Unless I'm mistaken, but pretty sure I'm not. So I don't think that has ever been really done before. Getting just a comic book writer, and instead of just like having him as the producer or writer or something, actually having him as the director with you. But yeah, it worked, and yeah, Robert Rodriguez has done. He has a pretty weird, interesting career. He does a lot of like amazing films, but then a lot of like trashy kids films. It's like he's the type of director who just like, yeah, he's proven himself to make loads of amazing films and with all sorts of low budgets, high budgets, and now just doesn't give a fuck. Will just do whatever he wants for the hell of it, kind of like Guillermo del Toro to an extent. So, but yeah, I really love this. I love the acting. I especially from yeah Mickey Rourke and Bruce Willis. Yeah, that was really good. And yeah, there's just tons. It completely embraces itself. It doesn't go too over the top or crazy with it. It does just the right amount and perfectly, in my opinion. Where it's just entertaining from start to finish. Never feels like it overstays its welcome. Never feels too short. And the credit things after each story really threw me off on a first watch. But yeah, that was a nice touch. But yeah, what? Yeah, so yeah, that's I mean my short thoughts on it, not going into too much, but yeah, really amazing film and cinematography was fantastic, etc., etc. But yeah, what did you think of it though?
I think they were really creative. I liked the approach they had with having like four stories. My least favorite one was the shortest one, the one that lasted for like five
Yeah.
minutes.
Well, to be fair, that wasn't really much of a story. Like there were two very short stories in between them where it's more of just like the setup for later. They keep adding on to it because they all connect one way or another. And then there's like three longer ones, but there were still good short stories though, like for 5 minutes and stuff. Threw you off guard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think like I liked three of the four. The only one I really didn't really like was the filler one, the 5 minute one. It felt like it was filler, but I enjoyed the rest. I mean, the other story were really interesting, and they made this movie unique in its own way because it's more than just a comic book movie. It's a movie where you get a city being the character because we follow a lot of different characters and a lot of different stories, but they all feel connected because it's inside of Sin City. So it felt like
Yeah.
really a movie about Sin City than the characters themselves.
Yeah, and it's yeah, kind of like Gotham. It does a fantastic job, and again, all the visual aspects and CGI and like everything and all that stuff, the green screen effects, it all pretty much for the most part holds up extremely well. Besides, like maybe two small bits, like one of them being like when that one dog jumped at Mickey Rourke's character when he was investigating. I was looked a little off, but besides that, yeah.
So I'm suggesting we can start off with the first part of this movie, the first storyline with the cop that basically saved the little girl, that actually came back later on. The girl came back later on. Uh, so
Yeah.
my first issue was the plot armor on the main character because they really wanted him to survive and go on that vengeance vendetta type storyline, and I'm fine with that kind of storyline, but I still feel like he had so much plot armor on him, like it's crazy. He took how many bullets, and we see bullet hits him and he's bleeding, you know? So I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it didn't hit any of the vital organs, but
It,
yeah, I mean, I think
even
that's
there.
kind of like the theme of this whole film, though, where it's like part of it is like, yeah, it's a bunch of, like the main characters and stuff just taking all this and just not dying, and it's just has a lot of messages to it, especially with the side characters, and what happens with them usually, and
And
etc.
I will go further with this, and this applies to pretty much every storyline in the movie. It feels like you need to suspend disbelief a lot, and feels like a live action comic. That's a bit like Stargirl when sometimes they have unbelievable fight scene that was still well done, you know. But
Yeah, the to be again, but to an extent though, like they never like they set up like well it is kind of a bit unbelievable if you take it like real life. It is its own universe, and they set up the rules in it early on where that explains to you why basically those characters can like why they end up in those situations where and then they still survive and stuff like they do explain it with like the laws in it, and it also as again, yeah, it is basically like suspension of disbelief because it's like a again, it's one of those comic book films that kind of just embraces itself in the craziness from the comic books. It doesn't try to be too grounded like The Dark Knight, which I have a lot of issues with, but what and isn't that realistic as it people say? But yeah, it just completely embraces itself, like especially the scene with in the third story, which we'll move on to later, where he like jumps through the door with the police there and him
yeah.
just like falling down the stairs like it completely embraces itself so and sets up the rules. So for me that's why I was cool with it, but I understand.
So my other issue was a bit later when he gets on the rope and you survive being hang up. I was like, man, that's plot armor in like 2000. Like it's crazy how he was
Yeah.
able to survive being hang like that. Now I
And to be fair,
understand how
people
he
have survived
escaped.
being hanged for a while. But I mean, get an escape from that. Yeah, that was pretty insane. But again, it's like, again, it's I think it was a really good like, because you just think the character's completely fucked there. There's no way. So the fact, like honestly, they made it like a surprise and throw-in way for him to survive, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, there have been people who survived being hanged for that long. So, but yeah, uh, it's kind of like this over art and thing, whatever you call it, where it's like each main character has this drive in them that's like it's like they'll like be half dead for a second, but then they'll just push through. It's like this theme in the universe.
So yeah, that's the thing in the universe, and you just got off at that. That's the thing in the universe.
Oh no no, I just muted myself.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay,
Yeah, I was
so
done talking there. So yeah.
the last issue I had with the first one was plot armor later on when he is after
Hmm.
the prick. Some of the cops shoot at him, and here again, crazy plot armor, and I was like, okay, whatever. I like outside of that, like these were my three big issues with the first little movie and the big movie. So, did you add
Yeah.
any
Wait. Do you
dislike
mean
or
the scene where
issues?
it's like he's trying to shoot Bruce Willis down in the car chase scene?
Not no. It's actually later by the barn. When he was taking when the main character was taking out everyone by the barn, and at some point, some of the cops shoot at the main character. The main character shoot back, but the fact that he survived getting shot at so many times, and he was still able to finish the work with the prick.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was by the end. That was like in the last like 10 minutes of that short movie. Um,
Yeah, that I see. Yeah.
did did you had any issues or did you had any dislikes with this first part?
There is one dislike I have with it, which is that it's again this completely adapts to comic books page by page basically. But yeah, one thing I would say was a little is he's like gotta leave before she notices me and gives it away, but he's still looking at he would have just turned around 180 and walked out like with his like hood on jacket on and stuff, not just keep staring at it and then have her look at him. So yeah, that was one thing there, but otherwise I mean I no, that's about it. I think the rest, makes sense in the universe of what they set up, and really loved it. And watching somebody fucking get his balls ripped out twice was that definitely probably a first in film history. Having somebody get happen once and then having them reappear and then doing it again. Yeah.
So now I had a lot of likes. The opening scene was very good. The detective, the good one, the good guy, was very interesting. The villain was also interesting. Um, the letter the little girl kept sending him was endearing a lot. It was interesting to see that, and that felt real in that very comic book tackled movie. The investigation to find the girl was interesting. The car chase where they shoot each other was also cool. I like it a lot. Um, the bar scene I also enjoyed a lot. Um, now I think what made this first part so good was the ending when the main character kills off the villain and then realized the only way to save the girl is to kill himself. That was really dark and that felt real as well. He achieved his goal, and just to make sure everything will be alright, he kills himself. That felt
Yeah,
like
yeah, it's like at the first half of the film as well, and then the second half kind of like plays out but differently again. Like, damn.
that gave a drama vibe. Like there's no escape. You will just end up dying at some point, and I think it was very interesting. So because that movie was really separated in many movies, I actually gave grades to every movie except for the filler one because I really didn't like the filler one. So I have three grades, and since we are near the end of the first one, um, the first one had a 9 out of 10 for me. What would be the grades you would give to the first part of the movie?
I would give it a 9.5, definitely. And yeah, and I'd say, what God, what was I gonna say again? Oh yeah, right. There was I forgot where it was, but there was an interview with somebody who worked on this film who said that they did have an idea at one point where after the fourth one, they like while the credits were playing out for it, like it would randomly stop and then it would like have a zoom and cut. It would have like a rewind type edit all the way back to the first short and have like a shot on the main character, but then you realize he didn't shoot himself, and then there would be like an even bigger like climax where he kind of does like a Die Hard, just like fucking goes to that place and just massacres everyone before dying. But they cut that out of the film. Yeah, they thought it just wouldn't work with the message and the story, which I mean I think was a good decision in the end. So
I agree with that decision as well. I think if they did that, I would have taken away points because it wouldn't match anymore. And yeah, I enjoyed a lot this first movie. The villain wasn't the best out there, but it was entertaining. It was a good enough threat to be messed up with. Um, so yeah, now I think it's the second movie that was the filler one that lasted for like 5 minutes. Am I right on that?
I believe so. Also, I need to go away for 2 minutes again, but keep talking about the first one until then.
Okay. So overall, the first one I think was well done. That's why I gave a 9 out of 10. Um, but yeah, I think it was the best one out of the four small movies, the big ones. The other three, there's one I didn't like. That's the filler one. And outside of that, I liked a lot the the third and fourth movies. Um, these were well done, just like the first one. They are not as good, but they are still well done. Um, so yeah, uh, I cannot wait to hear what our Cole's thought on the third and fourth, and maybe he has something to say about the second one. Who knows? So yeah, what I mean by the second one is filler is it was very short, and we only had like two characters, and they didn't really matter in the bigger picture. It was just more showcase of everyone is dirty and corrupt in Sin City, like a doctor killing someone, like he goes against his own oath, and that's like okay. We already had that kind of storyline with the first chapter of the movie, so why do we get to see more of that with other characters that don't really matter? They only have like 5 minutes of screen time in a movie that lasts 2 hour and 20-ish minutes. Um, so yeah, I am
Yeah,
wondering.
my bad. So, what are we discussing now?
So now I'm saying why I didn't really like the second movie, the shorter one, the one that lasted for like 5 minutes. Was basically saying that we already had some kind of message where everyone is like bad in this city. It's Sin City, and we already covered corrupt cop. Now we just cover like corrupt doctor that goes against their own oath just because he wants to, and he kills the girl. And
Yeah.
I think the second movie is filler. What's your take on the second movie?
Yeah, again, I wouldn't count the second one as like much of a film. It's more of just like a shock, like whoa, and yeah, and then the title sequence, and then it's also to give you like a bit of thing with like the female characters and stuff later on, like the one at the very end of that short, if you'd call it that. Like it wasn't really much of one; it was just filler. And again, I don't know which version you saw, but there was another shorter one after the third one. So yeah, but those two are more just like filler. Um, but yeah, that's so I wouldn't even really count them. But they were for what they were. I mean, yeah, they were good. They added to the film, in my opinion. Yeah, no issues with them per se. Just wouldn't count them as if we're grading like if we're grading the film as if they're like short films instead of overall. Then which I mean they are. But yeah, and I wouldn't really count them for a grade. Just the three.
So the version I've seen only had one filler
Okay,
chapter.
yeah, the other one was in like another version, but it's fine. It wasn't really needed, so
So you're telling me there's a second filler? Okay, that drops a little bit of score for me then.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
uh,
Well, again, it wasn't really much. It was more of like 2 minutes, I would say. It was
so
more of just like gave you some background on like the characters who were shooting at the guy near the end of the last short. That's it.
So, chapter 3. Okay, I like that one, just like the first one, but I think the first one was much better. But here again, that's just me. The second one was still very entertaining. I think the second one was more entertaining, but it wasn't as deep and as story driven as the first one. But it was entertaining nonetheless. So, what did you think of the second movie?
Yeah, I really loved it again. Again, I loved all three of the main ones basically, but yeah, this one I would say might be my favorite, because I do think it got, had like the most in it and had kind of more of like everything in it in comparison to the other two, which did as well, but this one even more so, and just because I really liked Mickey Rourke's performance in it. Yeah, I think he did a great job. Yeah, and it really just like it was the short that I think was like in the middle of the film, so it makes sense. But yeah, it was the short that really like highlighted the majority of the kind of city and universe. So yeah, really loved it. What did you think of it again? Like any issues you have with it, or
Yeah, I think I will get into it now. First issue, people can't freaking aim, so you basically escape. You jump for like 30 floors. Everyone shoots. Everyone miss. I'm like, man, you need to suspend disbelief too much for me. Just like,
well, to be fair, I don't think cops would really see that coming. A guy just bursting through like that and then like jumping down a flight of stairs. So I think it's understandable in my opinion.
and then surviving, dropping like
Yeah,
10
yeah. Again,
floors
with
down.
what the rules this universe sets up though, with these three main characters, and also what they built them as, and embracing the comic bookness, like and the universe like not being like real life. That's why I give it a pass. It's because I think it makes sense in those regards. Like it's sort of like given a flaw to Elijah Wood's villain character for being like some cat person, because hey, cat people aren't real. It's like, yeah, but it's its own universe. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
think that's what I would explain though with the cops, missing him, which just yeah, they would never see that coming. Him just jumping down of like that, and also bursting through like that.
next issue, convenient escape. So this refers to when the main character is captured by the villain, and he is basically going after the grid, the fence. And he is just with his muscle able to break these bars and escape. I was so bothered by it. I was like, oh, why, when? Does he have super strength? Does he have the super soldier serum or something? I was
Oh yeah,
really
he
bothered.
definitely has something, but it's not explained. But he definitely has something which he's built up as like he's definitely pretty immune to dying. That's what is one power in this universe.
They should have explained it better, I think, because I don't
Yeah,
mind
but again, I
superpowers.
think it's more of like
I like superpowers, but man, that guy just being able to
yeah.
casually break these bars didn't make sense for me. They didn't set it
Well, I
up
don't think he
properly.
broke the bars. I think he just like got them, like the bolts on them got loose after enough strength. But again, I think like having an origin for the characters with like their abilities and stuff, or like how they can sustain so much. I think that would have just like made it worse, in my opinion. I think that mysterious element of like how they got that way, makes it better. Like just that mysterious element of this mysterious like world.
So later on, uh, during his second encounter with the serial killer, um, he cannot aim anymore. So that led to the fist fight, and the villain is just casually dodging bullets. I was rolling my eyes. I was like, "Oh my, what is going on?"
Oh wait, which one was casually dodging bullets?
Yeah, the second encounter they had in the woods, like the encounter started pretty far away. They were far away from each other. So the main character basically took a gun and he was shooting toward the guy, and the guy was just casually dodging the bullets.
Oh, you mean Elijah Wood's character?
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
was.
Well, again, they explained he kind of like has, he's kind of like a human cat. He's kind of like honestly like Cheetah in that Wonder Woman fucking '84 film. So yeah, he can do that. So yeah, and that makes sense with his powers, like how he can dodge bullets like that easily and everything else. So yeah, it's mainly like his weakness is close combat.
Yeah. Um. After that, I marked down plot armor. However, I'm not quite sure when I felt the plot armor. If it was during the second fight or if it was by the end when he was electrocuted twice. Because when he was sentenced to death, he was electrocuted twice.
Yeah, well, people have survived electrocutions twice or
Really?
even three times. Yeah, three times was the
Wow.
maximum with one person, and there's been like maybe around eight who survived it twice. Is mainly because they either do it poorly or whatnot, or not enough shock. They kind of like do it for too short. So that definitely explains it, and again because of him being more powerful. So yeah, but yeah, if he survived like fucking 20 shocks, then I would have an issue. But
Well, I didn't know people could survive one shock like that.
it has happened. Like honestly, there's been people who they don't die from the shock. That what happens instead, the hair catches on fire and they die like that, which is why they now shave them, even their like hair on like their arms and everywhere as well.
That's straight up cruelty at that point. The
Yeah,
air catching on fire. Wow, that's sad.
yeah. There was a scene like that in The Green Mile. If you haven't seen the film before,
Wow. No, I did not. Um,
maybe we'll watch it eventually.
okay. So, did you have any issues with this third movie?
uh, let's see. Did I have any issues with it? Off the top of my head, I don't know. Probably not. Like, I don't know for sure, but not that I like remember. I think like again, I really love this film, but again, I think like it makes sense with everything it's set up in its universe, and it did it all amazingly, in my opinion. But there might be like a scene here or there I could be forgetting where it was a bit of a flaw, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe maybe I think they could have maybe done the one scene where with the the sister of the one girl, like hitting him with the car. Maybe they could have done that a bit better. But other than that, no.
Okay, so I guess I will move toward my likes. The opening scene, even if I didn't like the fact that these cops cannot aim, I still like that first scene. It was very interesting. Uh, the killing. So there was a killing early in the movie, in the second movie. I forgot which killing I'm talking about there. Maybe it was when he was torturing people to like learn more about the serial killer to find out about the serial killer.
Sorry, you mean the one where it was like in the alleyway with like the one guy who smashed in the brick wall, and then the other guy he later shot when he gave him info.
Yeah, actually, this is it. You pinpoint the right thing. That's exactly it. I think that thing was cool. I think the tone of this second, or I should say, this third part of the movie was more funny than the previous one, which was interesting because the first one was really dark, and I like dark stuff, but having a different tone for a different story within the big story was interesting. That showed that the writers behind the movie have several ways of telling one story, and this is the most important thing. When you're a writer, you need to be able to write different stuff, and the tone between both both part of the movie is very different, so that showcase the capacity to be creative and to make different stuff, and this is a strength. I like that a lot. uh, Action sequence, so all of the action in that turn movie was great. We also had a church scene where we find out that this priest is basically dirty, and this was very interesting as well. It was funny. The first encounter with the main villain was very interesting, and that led to the main character getting captured. I like that a lot. Even if I didn't like the escape aspect of it, I still enjoyed how he went there. After that, we had a great action sequence. That was great. Um, and I say the guy, I guess this is by the end, just before he gets arrested. He's going after the last guy, and he will basically kill him as well. Um, so yeah, this third movie for me was very interesting. What did you like about this third movie?
Oh, I just liked how it's like how everything unravels like act by act. It was really compelling, and how basically it really highlights how everyone is basically dirty in the city. Sort of like the second, filler one did, and again the performances were fantastic. The visuals were probably the visuals overall in the entire film were great, and I also really like the color contrast with like certain things, how it's all like black and white. Besides things where it is really like accurate to like comic books, how it's like they'll be black and white, in like cities like this, but then it's like they'll have some things that are like colored, like like if there's a character they want you to like pay attention to with like the main character, then they'll like color their dress like red or something. It's really so yeah. Again, I really like the accuracy to the comic books, and yeah. But the visuals though in this one in specific, just like the cinematography, shot composition, I thought was the best out of all of them. And yeah, they pulled off some pretty incredible shots with it. I believe one of them was on the poster for it because it was so good for the poster. So yeah, and definitely really like the villains in this one as well. Well, the one villain at least, definitely probably my favorite villain out of all of them. Uh, and definitely gruesome how it went out as well. Probably even more gruesome than the one in the first,
Yeah,
because it doesn't try to hide it with the color,
yeah,
unlike
I
in
agree
the
with
first.
that.
So yeah.
I think this villain was the best one in that overall 2 hour movie. I think that second movie was the most interesting one. He's basically killing to eat people, which is really gruesome. Just like what he said.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, basically, and yeah, I really like the ending shot as well, really from the first, like the beginning, the opening. So yeah, but yeah, I really loved a lot about this. For me, this is probably a 10.
a 10. Oh, very interesting. For me, this was a 8 out of 10. Uh, that
Nice.
that was a drop because I was really bothered by the character escape, these plot armors, people not able to aim, and I was like, yeah. And also, my
But to be fair,
likes,
I think they did shoot him a lot. He just, can survive a lot with his powers.
yeah, and I will add more to this. My likes didn't took as much space as the first movie. Uh,
Hmm.
the first movie I had uh, one big line and a half, and this one was only one line, and I have basically almost the same amount of dislike space. I actually had one extra dislike I didn't add with the first one. So yeah, that second movie or third movie was still entertaining. I still liked it a lot, but not as much as the first one. Um, Now let's move on to the last one, the big piece of the movie. I think the one that lasted for almost an hour. I think.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, once again, loved it. I loved pretty much all of this entire film. Yeah. No, I will say there was. I'm trying to remember what it was. What was it again?
They
Yeah, I believe
basically
it.
killed a a corrupt cop, and this is like a gang of girls that did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, no, no. I know how to short one. It's just there was one issue I had with it, which I'm trying
okay,
to remember what it was exactly. It was right. I believe it was there were the first one would probably have to be just I did think some of the shot composition in this one is probably the weakest out of the three, and then secondly the opening. Well, I still loved it, and later on, especially that like reveal with what she actually said while he was jumping out the window, it was still it didn't fully explain why he really had to like go out there and do it, or just like why he didn't kill the one guy like in the apartment if he was going to do like I guess to do in a more secure I don't know, but that was a bit confusing. And also and then the third thing as well was it's not a bad thing. It was still amazing, and it needed to happen, and it made sense. No issues with it. It's just after the awesome ridiculousness that we saw in the first two big short films. We kind of got the gifs of it already by now, like how characters will like seem dead but they're not, or like big reveals, which made. But by the time we got to the third short film, it made the reveal with the one girl with the blue eyes predictable, and it made you expect, yeah, that guy didn't actually get shot. When the one guy shot him abruptly. Otherwise, though, it would have been really surprising, but because of what we saw in the other two short films, it took away from that a little bit, but not the film's fault. It's just, yeah, but that's about it, though. Yeah, I really loved what this film did, though, and yeah, really compelling, over
I
the top story.
I think this one, even if it's not my favorite, that was the one I wanted the most to see how they solve everything. And there was that kind of tension throughout the movie. Will he make it? Will he be able to hide the
Yeah,
body?
like yeah, it was really thrilling. Like
Yeah,
because what we saw in the other three ones are, it always ended up poorly for the main character. So we were like, so we just expected, well, this just end up the same thing poorly for the main character. He'll die or they'll get caught. Because
yeah,
that's what we expect after the first two and three.
yeah. And now, I only had two issues. So, this is the one with the least issues, but these issues had still a lot of weight. And I didn't add that much likes. Actually, this is funny because I had less likes with this one than the third one, but I still like this one better. So I will start off by my issues. Plot convenience. I think I refer there to the main character being a witness of that abusive guy that beats up women. He just happens to be in the apartment when he does that. And it's really a plot convenience for me because this is one of the driving force. He is after that corrupt cop because that corrupt cop is beating a girl he knows, and he just happens to be a witness of that. Uh, yeah, I'm still fine with that idea of him going after this guy, but the sole fact that he is a witness of that kind of bothered me because usually they do that under wrap. And what if the guy wasn't around? What if the main character wasn't there that night? Would they still go after that corrupt cop later on? Would the corrupt cop get killed by the girl in the alley? later on. You know,
I mean, I think they would. I think it would have been killed anyway. So
there's a lot of what if that plot convenience didn't happen. So for me, the start of that story fell short because of that plot convenience. Now later on, I forgot where, but at some point they cannot freaking aim again. Each time I see character not being able to aim, I roll my eyes. I just do.
do you mean the one where it's like he gets up after they think he was shot, but they shot the badge?
I think that's the moment.
Yeah. Well, what I will say, I mean, it's because yeah, they thought he was dead, and I think he killed. I don't think it just they missed. I think they died pretty fast. He killed them pretty fast, and where there was only like two left, and then he just dodged the bullets from one of them, killed him, and then the other two had a bit of thing there, and with the explosions, so I wouldn't really say it was like I'm not aiming. I think if they like had a shootout for longer, and with like him taking cover before killing them, it took like 2 minutes or something, then I would agree with that issue with them missing so much. But
Now
yeah.
I think it's fair to say that character die only because the plot wants him dead, because they have plot armor on characters overall in that movie. When they want the character to survive, the character will freaking survive, you know. And this is a recurring theme throughout the three movies that really matter. Um, but yeah, I think that's it for my issues. I like the opening scene a lot. Um, the main character was very likable, like the rest of the cast. The killing of the corrupt cop was very interesting. The crime scene as well. Then there was an action sequence at some point. I enjoyed it a lot. The villain for this chapter, even if he was some kind of trope, and even if we already had that kind of mob boss in other movies and shows, I still enjoyed the performance. I still enjoyed the characters overall, and the gang made of girls was also very interesting. I like that aspect of that movie. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it for this fourth part for me at least. What did you like and what did you dislike about this fourth part?
Well, again, I said my dislikes and my likes was yeah, pretty much everything else. Like again, the journey, like what we saw in the other short films. It's like yeah, it made you really like keep championing on championing on the characters to survive after what we saw in the other ones because we want like one to end up a little bit better, and I mean they did end up like sort of positively in the other ones, like with them doing what they want in the end, but still ends with the main characters dying and getting criminalized. So yeah, that the whole way through was really compelling, made it really compelling, and the action scenes were fantastic, especially with the one character there with the sword. And what was the yeah, right, the one character that turned on them again? I really like how they've been pretty much was like highlighting that character since the title sequence of the maybe even in the first film, maybe she was in the bar, but yeah, since the at least the title sequence of like with the second shorter one, and in each of them, just like having her appear in all of them and leading up to all that was really nice. But yeah, there loved a lot of things about it. Not any, oh yeah, right. And I also really like the scenes of him just pretending like imagining the guy still talking to him while he was dead. That was really funny and good.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things I like about it. Yeah, pretty funny moments as well. Yeah, pretty gruesome moments. Yeah,
Now
definitely
that
probably like the funniest out of all of them.
I actually thought the previous one, the third one, was the funniest one. But I still thought it was funny for that one. Now that I think about it, next week we could watch the sequel, even if it's poorly received, I think it can still be
Yeah.
worthy to
Oh,
watch.
Sin City, a Dame to kill. Yeah. Maybe we could do that. Yeah, sure. I guess if you
Plus
want
another
to come
movie
finish it
you'd
off.
pick on top of that.
Yeah. But yeah, there were three I had in mind. I mean, considering you still don't find a proper thing for It Comes at Night. The other ones I was thinking of was The Menu, and then another one um, which I'll say at a later date, I guess. But yeah, I mean, the sequel to it. Honestly, I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just, but yeah, it definitely isn't very good. It's like it's between mediocre to average, I would say, and it's watchable and entertaining, but it's definitely, yeah, a letdown, I would say, in a lot of ways. But there was also there was a prequel they made, the three of them made. Um, I believe it was called, yeah, The Spirit was a prequel, and yeah, don't watch that one. That's garbage. We're not even gonna give that our time. That was such a garbage film. It came out in 2008. But yeah, but yeah, we can watch the sequel if you want. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Um. So what would
I'll send you in like Twitter DMs the three.
okay? So what would be your grade for the fourth movie?
The fourth movie, yeah, I'd probably give it a 9.5 as well. So basically, yeah, the first one a 9.5. The second one, which is the filler one, doesn't really count. But if you want a grade for it, I'll give it a 9. And then the third one a 10. The fourth one a 9.5. And the other short one I'm not gonna count because, and in my overall thing we're not gonna count because it was in another version of the film. And either way, I like rating just the original versions of the film. So I'm not gonna do that. But if you want my grade for it anyway, then I would give it a 9 as well, like the other short one. So it'd be a 9.5, 9, 10, 9, 9.5, basically. And then my overall rating would probably be a 10.
That's very interesting. So, as of
That's the
me,
one comic book film ever I gave it a 10. The only one so far.
that's good. That's good. We need these. So for me,
Yeah.
the last movie in that movie was 8.5 out of 10. So to recap my numbers, the first one was a 9 for me. The third one was a 8, and the last
Yeah.
one was 8.5. So I think
Sorry.
overall I would give 8.5. But here's the thing: there's the filler I don't like, so I took out zero point 0.5, so it fell to 8. So overall, I think the overall movie is 8 out of 10 for me.
Nice.
So that was very enjoyable. I liked it a lot. Among the
Yeah.
eights I gave, it's my favorite. So,
Nice. And that's good. But yeah, we'll say so. Yeah, again, this is the only one I've ever given a 10 for the comic book genre so far with adaptations. As for like, but as for the ones below that though, with like the 9 out of 10s and 8 out of 10s, there aren't too many as well because the comic book genre is kind of but there's a handful of them. But one of the other ones that's at the very top probably my third favorite of all time, next to Sin City and Spider-Man 2, will be the one that we'll be reviewing at the very end. So yeah, excited to talk about that later. But
I
anything
feel
else you
you.
want to say?
I feel you. I feel you. V for Vendetta is amazing, but let's go
Yeah.
religion first. So, any closing thoughts on Sin City?
No, but other than yeah, Robert Rodriguez, definitely uh, wish he would just keep doing more great films, but he kind of just does what he wants. Honestly, he's just one of those directors where it's like he'll he's honestly like the Adam Sandler of directors, where it's like he won't try for half of his or like most of his career. He'll just make like a bunch of junk with his buddies in his backyard for fun. A bunch of like children's films like Spy Kids and stuff, and fucking Shark Boy and Lava Girl. But then every once in a while he'll go back to his bread and butter, which he used to with really low budget films, and make some quality stuff like this or like or what was the other films? Yeah, he did. he did that Terrorville. It was part of that Grindhouse thing where it was that and Death Proof by Quentin Tarantino. They have collaborated a bunch of times, but let me search up actually his films that he's done, the good ones at least. Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Machete, Desperado, yeah, From Dusk Till Dawn, El Maestro. Yeah, Planet Terror it was, and the Facility, I believe. So yeah, oh yeah, and Road Racers. But yeah, he's done some good stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely watch it if you haven't yet. And yeah,
I'd recommend this
yeah,
movie
that's
a lot.
yeah, that's definitely it's better than any MCU film. Let's get that straight.
uh, I can see the appeal and why you think that. I can understand. I can see it. So, Legion third season. What did you think of the ending of that great show?
The ending,
The overall
Jesus.
season. Did you like the season?
Yes, I like the overall season. I would say it's probably I might still give it the same 8.5 type of grade as season one and season two, but out of the three, this is probably my least favorite, just because there was I feel like it was more predictable and there was less routes, crazy routes that could go in this one because they kind of covered a lot of it in the other two, but. I still enjoyed it, and again, the fight with Farrok's past self, was at the end was really nice. But the ending was cool, and overall it was great as well. Once again, the visuals were fucking great, and yeah, weirdly kind of sets up X Men, yeah, as it was doing with the mutants. So yeah, what did you think of it though?
That's funny because when I think back about that season, I'm like, at first David would never have ended the world. He went on that path to end the world only because they were going after him and he wanted to live. So even if he wasn't the good guy in the third season, he wasn't the bad guy either because he was the one
Yeah,
being chased around. And this is the irony behind it. And this is very very funny and sad at the same time. It's very tragic, and when you start killing people by like the back half of the season, it's because he needs a goal and people are in his way. So he just killed people in his way to reach his goal, and they went after it. They wanted him to be the villain, so he was the villain. So I think this reflects well the theme of good and bad the past two seasons had, and they added more to it. Now season two did that kind of theme a bit better, I think, because they really flipped sides. And that season they didn't really flip side; they just got further with this. So I think this season was amazing, and this is funny because right now I'm rewatching Supergirl for video purposes, and the second season is all about diversity, and I'm rolling my eyes when I watch Supergirl because it's handled by bad writer, and I look back to Legion, and I'm like, Legion actually had a lot of diversity. We got the man on man relationship in season one, and that also comes back in this season. We could see both Carrie as some kind of trans allegory, especially when they merge together and they fight these time demon at the end of the season.
yeah, true. I mean, could you describe that as, I guess, schizophrenia?
No, no, I really see that as a trans allegory because
Yeah, you can. No, I'm just saying you could see it in multiple things. I think you could see it in both those things and many other things. But yeah,
schizophrenia was more David case. So this is
That's true. That's true. Yeah, you're
this
right.
is why I speak about diversity, and we had the traditional relationship man and woman with Oliver and Mallory, and we had the more 20-ish relationship with Sydney and David when they were together, because that was more of a brain relationship, a relationship out of the world of the living, if you know what I mean. Like, that was virtual, that was like the love of the mind, if you know what I mean. So Legion has a lot of diversity in the show, and it's handled by great writers. So I didn't roll my eye. I enjoyed the diversity they were giving us, and it's done by clever people. So when I look back to Supergirl, I'm like, man, why can't you be Legion? So anyway, I think Legion third season was really good. It did close the storyline well, and I'm all over the place right now. But this is like raw thought on the season, and I think they handled time travel very well by the end. Usually, I'm not the biggest fan of time travel, but the way they basically explain it in the show, like the
Yeah.
timeline we have followed for 3 seasons doesn't exist anymore because they like branched out into another one. And I think this is very clever because if you keep the timeline we followed for 3 seasons, then you kind of break continuity. You create some kind of paradox, and the fact that they erased themselves at the end after they solved everything they wanted to solve, it felt earned, it felt right, and it made sense. And I think this was one of the best version on sci-fi of time travel. What is your take on time travel?
My take on time travel. In this, I thought it was done better than many other shows and films do. It's difficult to do, and I think this was definitely one of the better examples, in my opinion. But there were still a little bit of issues, but that's always bound to happen. Honestly, like the only way to really make it so there isn't like any flaws with time travel type stuff in a show or a film is if you set up like boundaries yourself, again, just like Sin City with its own universe and rules. If you tell people how things work in this universe and then that happens, like it, that's about the only way, honestly.
And I think this season we had much more musical piece, and I wasn't a fan of most of the musical aspect of it. I like the music, but when characters
I
start
did think it
singing,
was better than season two, though.
yeah, I actually the final musical in the last episode, I actually liked it. For once, I liked the musical because I felt like that final musical was a goodbye to the show, and
Uh,
it reflected well the storyline that was going on. And
yeah, and it did it well, unlike the post credit scene of the last episode of Hawkeye.
yeah,
Did
so
you remember that?
no, I don't. I'd rather forget about
Oh,
okay.
well, okay.
PTSD.
After Hawkeye ends the last episode, they just have like a 4 minute musical thing of like you remember in the first episode there was that like Broadway Avengers play in Hawkeye
Wow.
that like Jeremy Renner was watching and shit. Yeah, they just had like a 4 minute play of them singing and stuff at the end off that. I wanted to die.
So
Yeah, I mean, I guess they allowed Renner on stage though afterwards, and told him to break a leg because that explains the accident.
I liked a lot Farouk and Switch. I think they carried a lot of the show on their shoulders. Switch was very interesting. She felt like the girl that is the key to everything, but it made sense because the overall idea of that season was time travel and her power were time travel. So I was fine with Switch. She was very entertaining. Um, what else? There were many time loops throughout the season, and I think these were very interesting. Like, you can really mess up hard when you work on a time loop storyline. It's really easy to get it wrong, and there are only a few cases where you do it right. And I think Legion fell right in the right track. They did it right. The time loop aspect of it, they were very creative, and they were well used.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I still think, yeah, Lenny's character is still probably one of my favorite in the show.
Yeah, and she had such a tragic ending, and
Yeah,
this circles back to her past. All she wanted to do is live, and once she lived again, all she wanted to do is die. So that that
yeah,
that come full circle, and this is because of David. So even if David is wrong sometimes, that's because of David. She is damn right. So we cannot blame her, and that's a very tragic ending for that
yeah.
character.
Again, the actress did a fantastic job. In the past, like 10 years ago, yeah, I wasn't really a huge fan of Aubrey Plaza. It was just like, yeah, she's just decent, nothing special. But in the last like four years or so, she has really become one of the better actresses in Hollywood, in my opinion. At least one of the more underrated ones that doesn't get enough credit. There's definitely been a lot of films that come out recently that yeah, she's done a fantastic job in. So yeah, and this was another role like that.
And I really liked that third season for so many reasons. This is interesting because we had episode, I think it was episode 6, the episode after Sydney seemingly died. She went throughout a side story where that's a what if case. What if she was raised by Oliver and Mallory? And at first, I was skeptical toward that episode. I was very skeptical until I've seen the kind of closure and the point of that episode. The point of that episode was basically giving Sydney something she didn't add previously: empathy. She didn't add empathy. Nobody actually had empathy because nobody really understood David. And if anyone in the cast really had empathy, something essential, I'm pretty sure David would never have turned this way. He turned because nobody around him really wanted to understand him. And I think that kind of side story where she learns empathy was very important, and it was worthy to watch an entire like 50 minute of a what if world. And the most interesting part is that when Sydney came back to life, she basically kept that new knowledge she learned during that Sydney centric episode. And they were also really smart about it because Oliver and Mallory at that point, they basically didn't really showed up in season 3. I think they actually died in season 2. I'm not quite sure. I would need to rewatch season 2 to make sure of that statement, but I'm sure that's the first time we had seen Oliver and Mallory in the third season. So the fact that the only time they used these two characters was the time to build Sydney up and make her better was very clever. What's your take on that episode?
Yeah, I think it was probably one of my more favorite episodes out of the season. Definitely, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, there was a lot of things that kind of came back from previous seasons, as you said. Yeah, very like the connection.
And we get to meet Char Xavier this season.
Yes,
How did you feel
I was
about that
excited for that.
Char Xavier?
Yeah, I really like that. I was excited for that whole season.
So I think he was a great addition, and I think he was well
Yeah.
casted, and he felt like Charles Xavier. No, it
Yep.
was also well written. So
Yeah.
like he had small amount of screen time, but man, these scenes with David and Charles Xavier were great. It's just well done. I think the writing of this show is great. The characters are well built and they construct each season well, and I think the 8 episode format is perfect for this show because this show knows what it's doing and what it's aiming for. And looking back, I feel like season 2 could have been 9 or 10 episodes instead of 11. Looking back, because it's my least favorite season after rewatching all 3 seasons. I really thought the pacing did hurt the second season, but yeah, with this third season, man, I think it's just great closure. Um, I think it's the one of the best ending we could think of a TV show that lasts for 3 seasons and that tackles deeper themes like mental illness, like good and bad, and the effect people have on others. And I would not be surprised if these writers behind the show did some research on psychology and stuff because they are smart and they use logic and they use science in their sci-fi, and it's not stupid science, it's the brain. It's all about the brain. And I think that's one of the biggest appeal to this show.
Yeah, I agree. And it doesn't treat the audience stupid. It doesn't like just give handouts, and that's what I like about it. I hate when fucking shows and films do that. Fucking dumbs it down for the audience. It's like the definition of that is that fucking Joker scene, that scene in Joker, that overrated fucking film where it's like we knew when the one girl gave him that reaction when he was like in her apartment that like he was just imagining all that the whole time during the film with her, but they still felt the need to play out the scenes and like flashback scenes of him then being on his own imagining all that, just to scream it out for the stupid audience as if they could as if we couldn't figure it out ourselves, because fucking because idiots, I guess. Whatever, fuck me. But yeah, so I really like the show. Didn't do that for the most part. There were times where they kind of did that, but overall it was definitely a good amount where they didn't, which is don't see it too often with these comic book shows or films nowadays.
And that season, the most interesting part of it, I think, is the fact that you don't need action to be entertaining. There's really a little bit of action that season. It's really story driven. There's barely action. There's maybe like 3 or 4 action piece for like 8 hours, and it's still appealing, entertaining, and well done. They don't really need that much action, and I think that's the genius behind the show. They can make a comic book show work without action, because the characters are that good and the story is this good. So
Yep, I agree. Yeah.
I think this season, even if some of the episodes were a bit weaker this season, well, actually, the overall, usually this season I would give 10 out of 10s and lots of 9.7, but I think overall this season, looking back, I think I'm giving this overall season a 10 out of 10 because it's the perfect ending, and no episode felt like it was filler or meaningless. Everything had a meaning and everything was well placed, so the story flows good. The pacing
Yeah,
was
I agree.
great. I think this season had the best pacing. And I think if you take a look to the runtime, this season is actually the shortest season. So,
Yeah, I think it was as well.
so looking back, that tells us you don't need to be every week 1 hour long to tell a compelling story, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for me, this is probably like an 8.5 out of 10 season again. So, again, all three of them are pretty much that, between 8 and 8.5. But out of all of them, I would say the first and second are pretty much tied. And this one, I would say, is slightly lower between the two, under the two because of some issues I have with it. But I would agree with you on the pacing, though. The pacing was an improvement in this one. That was the one big thing.
what would be your biggest issue with this season?
Biggest issue again, it would just be the fact that it kind of halfway through, or even like one third of the way through, it is kind of already feeling the effects of like it running its being overstaying its welcome a bit, maybe with like before we get into the climax, at least in the big fight. With everything we already saw in season one and season two. Like honestly, if there were ever to be a season of a show that wasn't canceled, where they were forced to make it shorter than the other, a lot shorter than the other two seasons, and and intentionally did that, as got like Gotham season five, but intentionally did it, or Stargirl season three, then I think this one could have actually benefited from if they did that instead. But yeah,
They
that's my
really
biggest issue.
chose to end the show with the third season. That was their plan. They wanted
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
a
it was.
three season deal. So I'm
Yeah,
glad they were able to tell the entire story they wanted to tell. And this comes back to when you're making a show, don't plan too long. Make it short, and if you can, and if they let you, do a reboot at some point or do a sequel to your show, like you can
mm,
tell a complete story. Like, to be honest, I wouldn't mind having some kind of sequel to Legion because it was this good. Like, that sequel would be one of the alternate David, or one of the alternate Sydney, or one of the alternate Farouk. Like, when you're able to build a rich universe, like don't force yourself into making like 10 season and overstating your welcome, as we say. So I think
yeah,
this TV show having only 3 season was a great thing,
yeah.
because just like what you said, I don't see what they could do with a fourth season. They could do a sequel, do another story in the same universe, that's fine, but you cannot like drive the same storyline for a fourth
Yeah.
season.
No, if you're gonna do something different, you do like a spin-off. You don't
Yeah,
continue with the same characters.
yeah. So overall, all 3 seasons, what would be the grade you would give to the entire show?
Again, 8.5 I'd give for the whole show because yeah, like all the three seasons. Maybe boost it up to a 9 on a later date overall, but yeah.
I would give the entire show a 9 point. I'm torn apart between a 5 and a 7. I think I will go for a 9.5. Only because season 2, as much as I like what they did with it, was the weakest part of this entire show, I think. Having 11 episodes felt very long, and the pacing at some point in that season was really damaging the show overall. But season 2 was still very good. I still gave like 9.5, but it could be better. Um, so yeah, I
Yeah,
think I would give the entire show 9.5 because I was very satisfied with the ending, and
pretty much.
I still remember the first season being really, really amazing, and I think the teams the first season were the reason why that season was so good. And sometimes some episode had a bit of a pacing issue, but it wasn't as bad as season 2 because it was only 8 episodes. And most of the time, it was important what was going on because they only had
Yeah,
8 episodes.
yeah,
So
I agree. But yeah, so which show are we gonna be doing the next weeks? Because you said it wasn't gonna be Luke Cage. Which was it again?
Umbrella Academy, season
Oh,
1.
yeah, Umbrella Academy. Yeah, I'm really excited for that because
Me
again,
too.
Dark Horse. Yeah, Dark Horse. It's yeah,
I
ones who do yeah, like Sin City and stuff. I think they might have done or own V for Vendetta as well. Let me check. Dark Horse.
I've heard
I'm just gonna
about
search his.
I've heard about the Umbrella Academy. I have never seen it. So when you suggested it last week, that was a great idea. So
Yeah,
this is
they
what
do a
we'll
lot
cover
of.
next. Do you
Yeah, I
know?
heard a lot of great things about it, and yeah, there was this again Elliot Page's character in it. Yeah, he was like he was in the show before he came out, and then he came out later, and the show I guess transitioned his character as well, like in real life. And usually, like 95% of the time, I don't understand that. Like, in my opinion, it's like if a sorry, if an actor comes out as gay, that doesn't mean like they now have to play like every gay character just in films and shows, and that's that. Like they're actors for a reason. They don't need to play themselves. But I heard from people who are fans of the show that the way they went about it though was actually pretty great and it made sense. So yeah, we'll see with that. So I think that will be more different. But yeah, Dark Horse they've done yeah the Mask, yeah, Barbed Wire, Sin City, The Mask, Hellboy, 300, Time Cop, Polar, and then I believe they might, yeah, Umbrella Academy, and then I think they might have V for Vendetta, that, or it might be DC or Warner Brothers, I don't know. But yeah, they have definitely like a pretty good library of like adaptations and stuff, and this is another one with the show, so yeah, I'm excited for it.
Me too. Do you know how many season we got of Umbrella Academy?
Uh, I believe around five, maybe. Let's see. Okay, 3 seasons. I think it's still ongoing. Let's see if it is. Okay, I think it's still ongoing, but it says 3 seasons. Yes, and there'll be a fourth season coming out this year. So yeah,
That sounds great. So I think that will fall 1 week before the Flash. Just 3 weeks, yeah. Because right now we are like 5 weeks away from the Flash coming back. It's back February 8th.
yeah,
And as I said on Twitter, I will try to get a few guests so we have a discussion with more than just us two, because it's the
yeah, true.
Flash final season.
Yeah, I
So
mean, again, I hope that even though I'm not a fan of the Flash show, the one thing I at least like about it is the characters are better done than the majority of CW shows outside of the main two good ones. I would say it's then third, for
really,
under Superman and Lois and Supergirl or Stargirl. I mean,
so you like
um,
more the Flash than Arrow? I'm actually surprised because I do think
yeah,
Arrow is
I'm
much
not a
better.
big fan of Arrow, honestly. Again, I'm not a big fan of most of these CW shows, but Stargirl and Superman and Lois surprised me,
Yeah,
and the Flash, yeah, I think was kind of just average at best. But the one thing I really liked was the characters, at least how they were done. So
yeah.
hopefully they don't pull a Stargirl last episode with the characters and do them justice.
Me too. I really hope that, and we get Oliver back. It was I don't know
Yeah,
how they will bring him back. I suspect it will be flashbacks because
yeah,
President Oliver
they
died.
can just use the Doctor from Gotham. It's fine.
No, Amel
Uh,
is back in the role. The same actor is back.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I hope after the show ends, Grant Gustin goes to Ezra Miller's house and fucking knocks him out and then takes his role.
I agree with that. Did you hear that it's possible they will keep
Oh
Ezra
my god!
Miller
Don't
around?
bring it up, please. Don't bring it up. I'm gonna die if that happens.
You know,
Fuck me.
I will boycott this movie if Ezra is in it,
Yeah,
because
if Ezra Miller stays in the universe, that will be the first L for James Gunn and Peter
because
Safran, the first L, and it won't just be a regular L; it will be a ginormous L. They've taken loads of giant wins so far, but if they keep Ezra Miller, that's going to be a ginormous fucking L for them.
enormous. So this is funny because a lot of people are pissed and they don't want Ezra around. And man, they will. I'm sure they will still make money, but if Ezra wasn't in the role, I'm pretty sure they would have made much more money. Like it's looking bad, really bad, just because
Yeah,
Ezra is in
I
it.
could have spent 25, like around just like 10 or 15 or 20 million just to, or even lower than that, just to green screen him out of it with out of the Flash film with a different actor that, the same way, but they didn't bother doing that, so that's hilarious. But again, it's like, even if you put aside all the terrible shit he's done and being charged felony crimes many times in court and getting away with all this shit, even if you put aside all that, he's just he's just an abysmal actor and shit in the role. He is embarrassingly bad as the Flash. It's like a parody of the Flash. It's like if you take a comedian from SNL and make him the Flash. It's like it's embarrassing. He had hope at one point, Ezra Miller. Like again, there was Perks of Being a Wallflower, which is where he got his rise, and there was that one film we did with a certain director. I believe it was this more indie-ish film where it was it was the same director who did that the devil all the time film. Yeah, it was called After School, very indie-ish, but it was a solid film. Yeah, he was good in that as well. And then there was a third film where it was, had like John C. Reilly in it. It was like kind of like based off of like a school shooter type thing, which Ezra Miller played, ironic, but called like We Need to Talk About Kevin, which he was good in that as well. So he was on the rise, but then he just started getting shittier and shittier with his acting. And maybe all the things he's done outside and the fucking drinking and stuff was a part of it. I don't know. And God, he's just a creep in those Fantastic Beasts films. He is so abysmal in that as well. Yeah, he is just falling off a cliff. Like again, even putting aside all the drama with him and shit he's done, he's just not a good actor anymore. But because of everything that's been going on with him and because he isn't a good actor anymore, they can get him for super cheap, which is why and saves them money. So that's why they would do it.
But they will lose money at the end because people won't go watch these movies if he ends
Yeah,
up in
well,
jail. You know.
it's like the Batgirl thing where it's like they did it as a tax write-off thing. However, they forgot to file paperwork properly, and they did other stupid shit after it, which made it so in the end they pretty much saved no money from it, from canceling it as they would have because they fucked up. Which means, and again, that film it probably was outside of the act in which by the actress and Brendan Fraser and stuff. It was probably going to be a really bad film. It looked bad and cheap, but nonetheless, I'm not a fan of like media just becoming lost. Like at the very most, at least like dump it online or on HBO Max, and then like you just don't count it as part of the universe. Just say yeah, there's this. It was a failure. Whatever. We'll release it to the public and we'll try again with the same actors and stuff. Because I don't like seeing media just becoming lost. Again, if they were saving money from it as a tax write off though, then I would at least understand it, even if I still don't like media being lost, because I am big in the lost media community and finding lost media and stuff. But because they fucked up, they made no money, no savings from it. So good job, and it really fucked over the actors because Brendan Fraser and again the Leslie Grace really on the rise again, and they held off other roles to do that one, thinking it would give them a boost in their career. And from reports, they say that they were easily the best parts of the film and did a great job. So it would have, even if the film was terrible. But now because of this, it just fucked them over. And the Warner Brothers is still trying to looking at giving the directors and the actors from it a second chance, apparently from reports and with James Gunn and stuff, from what I heard. But even then, they fucked them over from getting other potential roles they could have from if they just released that and they saw their acting from other studios and stuff and made them lose more money. So yeah, good job Warner Brothers for doing all this bullshit with no net gain because you're idiots and don't know how to handle stuff properly. Really good job. And keep canceling those animation projects and keep saying that animation. Nobody cares about animation and it's for kids only. 500 IQ knowledge there. Like, that was my last straw with that Disney executive as well. The guy running fucking Disney. What was his name? Bob
Bob Iger
something.
or Bob
Yeah,
Chapek.
he was
There are
just
two
like
Bobs.
adults don't care about animated Disney films. It's like I wanted to fucking strangle you in the middle of Times Square.
So the true question: do you think you have enough time before Tuesday to watch the Umbrella Academy? First season is 10 episodes.
Yeah, I'll have enough time to watch season. Well, how
Worst
many
case
episodes are?
scenario, we move to Wednesday. Worst case
Yeah,
scenario.
fair enough. But I should though. The question though, and plus I might have to do something on. Again, I might have to do something on Wednesday and then Friday tomorrow. So but eh, how many episodes are in season one? That's the biggest question because if
10.
it's something like what?
It's 10. 1-0.
Okay, that's good. I was gonna say my max would be if it's any more than 12, we'd probably have to move it to Thursday. But 10, I can make do with it. Yeah,
That's perfect.
as long as no more shit happens where we keep delaying it till Thursday over and over again. Fuck me.
That's fine. As I said, you are very important because you're the co-host, and it's always great to have a discussion. So yeah, I think now we can move on to V for Vendetta. What did you think of V for
Yes.
Vendetta?
Yeah, I really love this. Not as much as Sin City, but just below it. Amazing film. Now this is definitely a one hit wonder, a fluke by the director, and he hasn't done shit after it. I mean, Ninja Assassin was pretty solid, and there were some good visuals in that other dark film with like Ethan Hawke or whatnot, but they weren't great films. And yeah, that I think he's been kind of taking the back seat since being more of like a producer and stuff, as director, whatever his name was again. But still, yeah, I really love the film. My biggest issue is, yeah, guess what? My biggest issue is. Take a wild guess.
Natalie Portman.
Yes. This highlights again outside outside of like outside of like two film roles where she was great, like such as Closer, and one just one single film role where she was randomly amazing, which was Black Swan. This is my problem with Natalie Portman. It's not that she is bad, and she wasn't bad in this. She was solid. It's just the fact that she's in every single film of every level by every legendary director of every genre. of every quality from garbage to masterpiece level. She is like literally like the Leonardo DiCaprio of female actors with like when looking at filmographies of all the shit she's been in. All right? But
The
despite all
prequels.
that, for some reason, yes, and despite all that and all the opportunities she's given since she was like fucking like 15 all the way to like 40 now, like just being in like fucking having like the most like the most good like, most amazing looking filmography out of any like female actress who in the film industry. Despite all that, she's only ever outside of those like two or three performances out of like 100, including Black Swan. She's only ever solid or good. That's it. She's never nothing more, and she's always the weakest part out of the whole cast and everything of each film, pretty much. And then there's also many films where she completely drags down with her performance, such as Jackie and other films. So that's my problem. It isn't that she's bad. It's just like she isn't anything special. Why the fuck is she? Was she given all these opportunities? And she kind of her performances are like the same thing every time. It's like it's like you compare her acting and her character in this, and then like her acting in a film such as Closer, and honestly, it's kind of indifferent to me, at least. Like yes, and she's never done good in a film that's not good. It's like like good, like great actors and actresses, even in like mediocre or bad films, like they'll the odd time they'll at least be the shining case in the film where they'll carry it on its back to the best they could and at least be the standout. There's never been a time like that where that was the case with her. She's always has to rely on the director, or else she'll flop. But anyway, and this was another case. She was just average in this, nothing special at all. But nonetheless, besides that, yeah, I really love this film, and I really loved the lines as well. Like the writing itself wasn't all too brilliant, and again, like I was afraid that like rewatching this, revisiting this film, this would be a film that I end up thinking is kind of overrated and overhyped, which some ratings and stuff say online on other film sites outside of IMDb, and like it wouldn't be like the best overall filmmaking with the editing and cinematography and all that. But nope, it was in my opinion still. And now the writing itself and like the story and the political messages aren't anything new or brilliant, but it still did a great overall job with it. And the one thing I really liked about it again is like the memorable quotes and lines from the main character that was really compelling, and I think it really boosted up my rating and my interest in the story throughout. And yeah, there's just so much I love about this. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that for now because yeah, I really want to hear what your opinion is on it because I've already seen this like a few times. But yeah, what did you think of this?
That was a great movie. Um, I only had one issue, and I think we can debunk it. Maybe, maybe not. Natalie Portman character in the early stage in the movie, in the TV station, there's a cop about to shoot down V, and it's very convenient that she is around and she saves V. I think this is the pinnacle of plot convenience. Like,
Well, to be fair, I think V didn't need saving it. I think he had the plan figured out himself. I think she kind of just went about doing that herself. Because we seen what he did throughout the film, and he was also we saw his line delivery. He was kind of toying with him. I think he had a plan like the bulletproof thing, or just like swiping the gun away with his sword and killing the guy, or something like that. But she went about doing it herself before he could. I think that was more of the thing, honestly.
yeah, I know he could have escaped. He was a smart guy. There's no way he would end there, but it's just very convenient that she just happens to be at the right place, right moment to do the right thing, and
Yeah, well, to be fair, she was at the entrance the whole time, and he was coming out of the place. to the exit, the entrance there, so it's not like too out there. They set it up like that.
Yeah. So that was my only issue. You mentioned it, the message, the political aspect of that movie. I'm not the biggest fan of politics, but I do think for this movie it was perfect and it made sense.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there are politics in every film, every medium. It's just, what you do with them or how much they stick out. There's always going to be a little bit of like political undertones or like underlying messages, at least in everything.
Yeah, I think it was well done with this movie. They were really clever about it, and this is the futuristic world we can have if we just let these people in power get too greedy. If we give them too much power, this can be our future. This is why I think it's very grounded and realistic the way they
Yeah.
depicted.
I mean, to be fair, it's already been kind of,
Yeah, it's already been a little
yeah, at
bit
least
like
in like
that. Yeah,
some countries, like we can see it in many like, more strict countries like Russia and everything. Like this is already
China,
kind of the case, basically.
South Korea. No,
Yeah.
not South Korea. North Korea. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
South looks
basically.
better.
Oh, yeah, North Korea, they're starving. Oh, so I'll be right back, but keep talking. I'll be back for like just 30 seconds.
Yeah, so politics in movies can damage movie if it's not well done by good writers. And we were lucky enough to have good writers with V for Vendetta, and they were smart. They probably did research on psychology because a lot of politics are tied with psychology, like the Pavlov dog, like how you educate someone or something to do certain behavior. So that's why I think politics sometimes is linked with psychology, and they go end to end together, and they can have close ties. Um, you basically educate your people to believe a certain way, and you basically tell them half truths to make them
Yeah,
believe in your
like the media
cause.
aspect is pretty accurate, honestly, to like Fox News and all that. Like
Yeah,
it's just yeah, they never tell the truth. Like that's the one thing I really noticed. It's like it's honestly like because we did those podcasts with Film Elitist, the Illuminati podcast, where we talked about conspiracies and what the news said. To then like when we look at the info, it does not line up at all. But they never admit it. They just tell the story. Like that is that accurate in what they showed.
yeah, and one of the criticisms, because I was really curious to see the audience feedback, what people were talking, and what the critics
Yeah.
had
Again,
to say.
it's loved on IMDb and Letterbox, but it's not as loved on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic. Although Metacritic fucking hates everything, so just don't.
So that was funny because one of the common things I've seen in lots of comments from people was, "We are not zombies in front of our TVs." Excuse me, you are. Most
Yeah, yeah,
of the people in 2022 are, and I will say this: most of people in 25 were as well. This
yeah.
is why.
Yeah, like no, they are like there's not like zombies, but it wasn't portraying them as that. It's just portraying like accepting the news as facts and everything is facts. Every report is facts. Like like butter is now healthy for you. Yay! Oh, you should alcohol is healthy for you. You should only have three French fries with your meal. Like yeah, and then it's like oh no, we made a mistake. That actually isn't the case. Keep believing us. It's like but also yeah, that zombie thing. I know it is accurate, but also it's not that. I don't understand that critique because they weren't just showing every character throughout the film while on the TV as that. Not at all. That the opposite of that. We showed different viewpoints. We showed some characters who are just believing all that shit and like with the government, and then other people like, yeah, this is bullocks. They're lying. I'm not buying this. Like Like we saw all the viewpoints. Like what are they talking about? People aren't just zombies. Did you watch the film? Yeah, and
Yeah,
also that's accurate. Like you look at Russia, it's like there are a lot of people who are against Putin and shit, but they're afraid to. So yeah, they'll still like stay in their homes and like not speak out or protest and stuff. Like and despite watching the TV, knowing it's bullshit or all the things because for their safety, like which we saw throughout the film with people, taking people prisoner and stuff. Like, but like we saw that like when they were having that election again in Russia like the people in Russia on Twitter said that there were military people at their homes while filling out the voting thing with guns in their hands while making the choices so they would vote
wow.
for Putin. Like, and this was what the film showed. So I don't know what they're talking about with those like criticisms. That wasn't in the film at all. What are they saying?
And that's funny because I remember a line at some point, I forgot which character said it, but that person was watching TV and that person was like, that journalist, that news reporter is lying
Yeah,
and she
yeah, yes,
knows
it was
it.
Natalie. It was Natalie Portman. It's like you can tell when she blinks too much.
Yeah, so when I hear that kind of scene happening, and I'm pretty sure it happened more than once, but that's the biggest example I got. That debunks one of the most popular criticisms toward the movie. I think some of the people having dislikes for the the depiction of the people in the movie, I think some of them feel damaged by that movie. They feel like that movie aim at them, and that movie is too close from what they live, so they need to like react to it, if you know what I mean. So it's too close from the truth, and they don't really like that when sci-fi comes close with reality, if you know what I mean, because it's a very realistic sci-fi universe. So some people don't really like when sci-fi meets with reality, and they will just find ways to criticize the product at the end. Do you know what I'm getting at right now?
Yeah, I know we got an ad, and also, what was it again? Right, there was a lot of like hints, like earlier and midway through the film that led to the end. If you picked up on, like, remembering the characters were after they watched the film. She said that line, like, I hate how, the character, like, cared more about like revenge and like throwing his life and caution to the wind instead of his lover, and that was reminiscent to the end. You could see it throughout the film if you caught it.
Yeah, yeah. His goal was more important than love, and
Yeah,
it's very realistic to most people are like that. Their
yeah,
goal matter more, and so that's why in 2022 we have less kids because we just don't want kids anymore. All we want is our goal. You know, the goal is all that matter. This is very true even in 2022. So even if that movie is like 17 years old, well, actually 18 years old. I just realized we are in 2023. Happy New Year, man. I'm a bit late, but Happy New Year.
yeah, you too.
So, yeah, even with that movie that is on its 18th birthday, it's very realistic. It's well depicted, and in this movie, the main character is not a hero, but he's not a villain either because he's right. And the villain is the government, and it's a reflection of reality. Like, most wars are created by the government because they want territory, they want money, or they want to feel powerful. So having that kind of anti-hero going up against that very strong government is great. He has all these strength going after him, trying to stop him, but he's right. He may be wrong in his ways because he's killing a bunch of people, but it is vengeance is as a good foundation. It's well explained, and I think Natalie Portman character overall is some kind of answer of the audience, how the audience should feel, because at first she doesn't really understand what's going on, but she's happy it's happening, and at some point she's like, is it right, is it wrong?
Yeah.
And as the movie move on, she slowly understands why it's happening, and at the
Yeah.
end she understands and she embraces it, and she wants to be that force to push it forward. So I really feel like Natalie Portman character is an insert for the audience. They want the
Hmm.
audience to feel like Natalie Portman, which is unique. I think maybe I get the movie wrong. Maybe I didn't really understood the movie, but that's what I'm getting from that movie, and I think this is a great strength. Am I right on that? Like audience insert?
I think you're kind of right. Yeah, kind of like the passenger. It's sort of like honestly sort of like how in Star Wars C3PO or on is sort of like the tour guide or passenger of like in the Star Wars universe. That's the best way to describe it. So yeah. Uh, Also, by the way, another thing about that false criticism of people saying people aren't just zombies. At the time in 2005 and before that, yeah, it was still the time of like Fox News and like that one dipshit, and also post 9/11 and stuff. During that time, like 2 billion people in the world were watching Fox News, and it was the most biased shit ever, and people believed it. And like, there's good documentaries on Fox News like during that time, that like shows the brainwashedness, just how brainwashed America was, and there's many political films, even going back in like the 1969 about this stuff, like Punishment Park. It's because this shit actually went on. Like this isn't just like this. What I really don't understand about that criticism, that they have to be fucking children. Come on, they have to be children. But yeah,
Even in Canada, at some extent, we are manipulated by the media. That's why I'm not watching TV. And I will give the most recent example. I keep giving that example because this is the best one I know. Trudeau demonizing the truckers, and in the media, the truckers were showed as these people, these terrorists that burn places and that destroy stuff and that are dangerous for society, you know. But they were right, and there was no fire. It didn't got out of hand. It's just the media that wanted to make them look bad, so they would say anything that would make them look bad. And it's funny because even the police during these protests was on the trucker side. So at some point they needed to send the GRC, the Royal Police, instead of the city police. You know, because the city police, they were like actually
yep,
rooting for the trucker. So if the trucker were as bad as what Trudeau wanted to showcase to everyone, why
yeah.
did the rail guard came into the mix? You know, it's just crazy. It's the best example I got, and man, I'm scared. I don't want Trudeau to have another term. I want to kick him out.
Listen, he's gotten this far because the other options have been so bad. So people are just like they voted on the party rules instead of mainly him. But at this point, we got to get somebody else in. Like it's because it's like the new Democratic Party's rules are pretty much just like a downgrade of the rules in the Liberal Party, and then the Conservative Party rules have some positives and some negatives. It's like the Liberal Party has some negatives, some positives. It's like, but a lot of people in Canada tend to agree that the Liberal Party's rules more. So yeah, and so yeah, Trudeau sucks, but then it's like the Conservative Party leader sucks as well, and the NDP. So well, actually, the NDP probably has the best leader, but still, again, it's the rules are basically a downgrade of Liberal Party. So Yeah, that's pretty much why. At least what people, people's perception of why they keep voting for him. And it's not because they want to. Uh, it's gone to the point where I just voted Green Party every time. But
Let's have
yeah,
more
but
weed.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
make
Oh,
more
so
rules
the
about weed.
documentary is yeah, the documentary about is called Outfoxed. It's about like, yeah, Fox News, Bill O'Reilly and stuff. Also has Jeff Cohen in it from the Goonies film, which I think I might recommend this week for a certain reason. We'll see, but yeah,
That sounds great, man.
yeah,
Okay,
because basically I recommended like comedy films and films for women prior, because after watching shit like She-Hulk, I was like, let's recommend these films to show you a good version of what they can be, even if multi-topic personally isn't as much into them as I am. So if I recommend that one, it will be because I'll be doing that with like more for young adults or children next, because you can do those films right, really right, stuff like E.T. and stuff. But these days, it's a lot of dog shit, so.
so to go back to V for Vendetta, and we like Tangent, but we need to go back to it because
Yeah,
we
but
kind of
yeah.
lost our mind because the discussion is so interesting. Uh, what did you like the most about that entire movie?
Uh, Sorry, what's that? Oh, what I like about the movie specifically?
What did you like the most while rewatching V?
Honestly, I can't pinpoint one thing. I think it was mainly like, I think, because again, I think it was just mainly the way they executed. Honestly, my favorite thing might have to be the pacing, because all this stuff, the political thing, the action scenes, the stuff with the main character, all of it, well done, could easily be considered like generic or boring. It all came down to the pacing, but in my opinion, I think they nailed the pacing, and that really made me super entertained and intrigued the whole way through. So that was probably my favorite part. But again, my second favorite part is just the line delivery of each character and the quotes, or like it made each one just like elevated. Like I really love that one near the end. So it's like, no, you have bullets. You
I
don't have
agree.
guns, you have bullets. I love that line.
So I like the opening scene a lot. It was a great introduction to this fascist or authoritarian world. I liked it a lot. The idea of V and his long speech to introduce himself made him really likable fast. And you're like, oh, this murderous guy can just speak so fast and say so many things so quick, like
Very well spoken.
yeah. The TV guys, so these reporter reporting stuff were very interesting. The alley scene, so this is the fight scene where V is basically beating the crap out of these police people. Uh, Fireworks, so when he blows up a building, that was good. The government meeting after the building blew up was interesting. V and V, it was very entertaining to watch. Um, V message action sequence. So I suspect now it's when he explains to Natalie Portman character what he is doing and why she cannot really leave, and it's not he doesn't trust her, she's just safer with him, which is true because at some point she could have died if he didn't caught her. um, the symbol of blowing up buildings was well explained. Oh yeah, V that morning where V is cooking breakfast, and V is basically finding the armor. That was funny. Uh,
Yeah, showing the hand and stuff. It's like,
The
Yeah, I was like, shit.
investigation was great because now you realize some of the
Yeah.
cops, they want to understand what's going on and why it's happening,
Oh yeah.
and this was
And again,
well done.
I really like the scene. I really like how they never unveiled his mask. That was
Me
good.
too. Me too. Like at the point where they make you believe it's V cooking the second time, but it's not. In fact, it's just someone V met and
Oh
they
yeah.
bonded. Like at first I was like, oh, is it really V? But then when they revealed it's not really V, I was reassured. I was like, okay. I got scared at some point. They revealed his face, but I don't need to see his face. He is the
Like
symbol. He
again,
is the
I
idea.
think I think one third or halfway through, like the film makes you want to. I think that it's actually really compelling what they did with the mask though, because like the first half of the film or one third of the film, it makes you like it teases you with it again, like with his hands and stuff, where it makes you think you want to eventually see his face, and as a big reveal, and that's important to the story, and to find his like identity more that way, even if you know some bits of it and whatnot. But then in the second half, and like how the story goes on and stuff, and like the end into the film and the message about just like him not being less of a person and more just like a figure, like what he represents, and politic, to the people and everything, and that line with Natalie Portman at the end, like it makes you glad, like he never took his mask off.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. So, one mask can describe a great character. I think V just wearing that mask all the time was amazing. Um, we also got Natalie Portman character backstory that was interesting. I liked it a lot, and it felt real because that was the authoritarian world, and her parents were activists, and it made sense. Later on, we got more of the investigation. I think the subplot with the investigation and the cops was great because at some point they connected to V and they piece things together, and then they meet with V, and I really like that aspect of it. I'm into like crime drama and stuff, so when I see a well written investigation, I enjoy it a lot, and the fact that these detectives they really want to understand what's going on, so they do research, and you do the research with them, and you learn more of the lore, and you learn more about the characters and the world and the past and the backstory. I liked it a lot. That was well done. The church scene. Oh yes, this is when Natalie Portman pretend to help V, but she only wanted to save the priest. That was very interesting because that was well done. Like normal people, you and I, for example, we are placed in Natalie Portman's shoes. We would probably do the same because at that point
Yeah.
we didn't really wake up to what's going on. We are still asleep. And the goal of that movie is to wake up the audience. The goal of this movie is to wake up Natalie Portman's character. So at that point, she's still asleep. And I like that a lot.
Yep.
The killing of the bishop was great. More investigation. The guy that helped Natalie Portman's character later on was very likable. More of the investigation. The content of the book and the reaction to the authoritarian government was amazing. It was well done. It made sense. But maybe it's a nitpick. It's not an issue. It's just right now I'm thinking about it. Why did they let the detective alive knowing he read the book?
Why did they let the detective live? No, when he read it.
Yeah, because they were like, he will not repeat the content of the book. He will not reveal the content of the book. Why didn't they just kill him? It's an
I
authoritarian.
think again, I think with 99.9% of people they would, but I think he's in like that like upper like that 0.01% class or whatnot, or in their like group like top 12 where and even in other things though they still kind of kill off people who know even that if they don't fully trust them. But again, he's like, if it's sort of like a lawyer, that's his job, so they would trust him, I guess. But and I guess he didn't quite, so I guess they were right. But yeah, that's two of my best explanations for why. But yeah, that was like I was expecting them to maybe do something with him, like kill him off,
Yeah.
after reading the book when they said that, but they didn't. So and yeah, no, I mean, there's explanations for it, but yeah, I did expect him to die. So
So next point, history repeating itself was interesting, and then we see Natalie Portman getting mentally uh, destroyed and threatened and stuff, and this is the point where she slowly wake up and realize, and she's no more really asleep. She's like in between, and the fact that she was reading the notes left by the previous prisoner was very interesting. It was emotional. It was felt. The music was good. More investigation. I like that thing a lot. The
yeah,
farewell of V toward Natalie Portman was endearing. It was emotional.
yeah, and that was a great reveal. I did not see that coming.
Me neither. We
Yeah.
then get the final action sequence, a great action sequence.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
v dying, the final firework. I think this movie was amazing. I think this movie was a masterpiece. Anything
Yeah.
you'd like to share or add?
No, that's about it. But yeah, for me, this was now there weren't really many flaws I had with it. I just but yeah, so this was definitely amazing. It was very close to a masterpiece, but I'd probably give it a 9.5 out of 10. Not because it did anything. Well, I mean, maybe the cinematography could have been better, but to be fair, it was early 2000s to mid 90s when this came out, which is when cinematography for some reason fell off a fucking cliff with every film during that time. So, but still, it could have been a little bit better there, maybe. But outside of that, no, it's not that the film did anything wrong. It's just no, it's just sometimes films can be like they can have zero flaws, but just be on that 8 out of 10 level the whole way through, or 9 out of 10 level, etc. And for me, that was like V for Vendetta. Like it was kind of like on a 9.5 out of 10 level the whole way through. Never quite a 10, but yeah, 9.5 out of 10 for me, very close to a masterpiece. But yeah, it's probably my third favorite comic book film of all time, with second being Spider-Man 2, and then one Sin City, and then if we were to count shows, then Invincible would probably be second all time, and just in general for that stuff. But yeah, and then Superman 78 would probably be up there in the top five for me personally. Yeah, so I
I
mean, so
I
what did you
was
think?
I was actually surprised it was DC Comic making V for Vendetta. I was
Yeah,
kind
and
of
again,
shocked.
this is what they're missing these days. We need more stuff like The Crow and V
Yeah,
for Vendetta being made, and it is still being made to an extent, like with like Legion and Umbrella Academy, but more film. And there are still some films and stuff, but they're very low budget. We need more with like good budget like this
yeah.
to not compete with MCU or stuff, or be like a universe, but just produce more like
So
that's what's missing. But I will say though, they are making a fucking a. I don't know if you ever saw the original. If not, I'll definitely recommend that one week. But they're making a remake of the Toxic Avenger, which I'm very excited about. So I don't know
send
if you've
it.
heard
I'm
of it.
curious. But I
Oh,
V for Vendetta 9.9 out of 10 for me. The same
yeah.
grade as Arrival. And yeah, I like this movie as much as Arrival, and I think Arrival was my favorite movie among all the movies we covered so far. So V Vendetta, I don't know if I would place this one higher or lower. Maybe I would place this one a tidbit higher because it's much more entertaining. It's not as deep, but it's more entertaining. So maybe I would give that small edge to V. I really liked a lot V. It's just a great movie. I liked it a lot. As I said, the only thing that come close to it would be Arrival for me. Enjoyed it a lot. It's the kind of movie that really leave that kind of impact, and I see myself rewatching in the future just for fun because I like that movie a lot. I think the actors are great. You don't even need to see V face to feel what he is feeling. So each time I see these actors that really wants to show their face, I'm like, you're not the characters. You're yourself, and you want to show yourself, And V was just that magic character that don't really need to show his face to leave that impact. So, man, I had a blast today. Any closing subject or closing thoughts to add?
Uh, Shit. Nope, that's about it. But yeah.
So, which movie are we watching next week outside of Sin City 2?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it will be. So I was planning two other ones, but we can throw Sin City 2 in there. So either you can just do one of the two with Sin City 2, or you can try to do all three of them if you're able to, your choice. But yeah, but either way, it will
I
be Sin City 2, The Menu, which is now out,
Yeah.
on Movies Joy and stuff, and The Goonies, because I was like, I showed some films out of some good comedies and female related films to show you can do it properly, unlike She-Hulk. So I'm like, let's do the same now with like films that are more for kids, but adults can still find
Yeah.
great and entertaining and like a classic, which this one holds a lot of nostalgia for me. I've rewatched it many times, just like The Mummy. So yeah, there are definitely some issues with it and some like continuity issues. Like there's like scene where it's like a character it's like doing something and it's like then they show like another shot of that same thing, but he's further away than he should be in the other shot, like some continuity issues and some small things here and there, but yeah, for the most part though. But yeah, and then for the week after, it will probably be. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I might recommend the Toxic Avenger or Poultrygeist as one of the two. Which maybe not Poultry because I mean, it does have some musical notes you might not enjoy. They are comedic purposes, but because basically, yeah, we were just talking about that, and basically, what if you don't know what they are? I will say James Gunn actually worked on with the director on one of those type of films he made called Romeo and Juliet or whatever. But basically, they're type of films that are like they're intentionally like have this trash film feeling, like this trash feeling, and it's like they're like satires of films themselves and of like bad films, and that's the comedic parts of it, and that and the gore in it. And they've kind of gained like a cult following, mainly the Toxic Avenger, which has become kind of a classic with that, and is now beginning remade. So because of it, so I'm thinking of recommending that the week after just to see what you think. I have a feeling you might not like it, but let's mix it up. Why not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the point is being entertained, learning new movies, and and
Yeah.
just doing critiques
Again,
of movies,
yeah,
and
again, yeah, again, we can, yeah, it's not all just about recommending the best stuff. Like, honestly, I might throw in a garbage film in there that's
we have seen
that I find as an entertaining film. So,
we have seen 28 weeks later after all, so
yeah,
as
yeah, it
long as
wasn't
it's not
garbage, but
shield
it was
bad,
pretty
it's fine.
low. Yeah, well, I will say there are films out there that are garbage, but they're so garbage that they're funny, that they're hilarious and entertaining, in my opinion at least. I might just throw in one of those to throw you off guard and see what you think. Well, and one of them would probably be, I won't even say the name. You can figure it out when you watch it.
Wow.
But yeah.
So
Oh,
thank you
actually,
very much,
I'll
man.
send. Yeah, no problem. Now I sent you the DM on Twitter, basically. So yeah, those are the three things would be this week if you're able to watch all three of them. If not, then just two of them, and then the week after would be the ones under that, and then also again there's still this one. Whenever you can find a proper thing for it to watch it, then you can substitute one of the things out again with it. Like for example, if you watch Sin City 2 and then you see if it works on another site, and then you're able to watch it, then you don't have to watch The Menu and The Goonies the next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
Man,
whenever you can. But yeah, so that's basically, yeah, got those films in order.
we had another great week to this week. Thank you very much. You are amazing. I really hope we can get some people joining us for the Flash when the Flash will be back. I also went on a. I am on a Facebook group, and there's a lot of people that reacted to my post there. I was asking if some of them would like to join us. So far, I don't have many replies. I only have people that are looking
You did
for.
add some people in the group chat, or those some of them.
Yeah, yeah. So these two, I knew them for a while now, and yeah. So man, that was great. Thank you very much again, uh, viewer. You can like, comment, and subscribe. Cole YouTube channel is in the description below.
Yeah,
Do you have
there's a
any?
chance I'll make a new one in the future, but yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
that
see.
was exactly what I was going to ask. Any future video project or podcast project for your channel?
Not yet, but I hope in the near future, but not in for the time being. I might keep this channel. Well, I'm gonna keep it up no matter what. I'm not gonna delete it or anything, but I might just keep it as an archive thing, and for, the handful of popular videos I have on it, but make a new one and with my new email that I have, because YouTube, when your channel is older and you haven't like gained any traction or uploaded much on it anymore, YouTube doesn't really promote you well on it. So I might just like make a new one, and then just when I'm ready to go, make a new one and start uploading right away. And you should gain like subscribers and views easier and a lot faster that way. And then also because I have for some reason a warning and a strike on this channel,
What?
which it is in strike 2, which is demonetization, or strike 3, which is deletion. It's basically strike 1 is like it. Well, the warning is the warning, which is like the before the strikes, and then strike 1 is like a warning strike and like a 2-week ban or something. And it was for bullshit reasons. Basically, I had a private video that was literally just like me and some friends in like middle school fucking around with shit, and it wasn't anything bad. It literally just featured like me when I was like 17 and some friends who were like 17. That's it. And yeah, just telling jokes and stuff. And for some reason, they took it down, said it's child endangerment, and then gave me a strike, and then would
What?
not and then would not accept my appeal. And not only that, it was a private video from 7 years or 6 or 7 years ago, and it was uploaded and made when that was never a rule on YouTube. So and then I just forgot about the video. So it's like, how the fuck is that fair? And they did that twice. And now I'm
Wow.
just like deleted any videos that could possibly even slightly go against the guidelines and just like saving them on my folder that are like uploaded privately on my channel. Because if I get one more, then it's demonetization, which means this channel's completely fucked. I'll definitely have to make a new one. Which again, I might make a new one now anyway because I don't like having strikes on my channel. And then if I get two, then my channel's deleted. Yippee! So that's great. But anyway.
So thank you very much, man. Next Tuesday or Thursday, depending if we can make it Tuesday. I really hope we can, but that's fine if we push it back as long as we air it at some point in the week. That's the point of the weekly thing, you know, and that's also why I was telling the others, like, we try our best to make it work Tuesday, but if we can't, we can't. We will just move it the same week, another day, and that's fine. I mean, as long as we do it, that's what matters for me. And man, you're great. Thank you very much, and take care of yourself. And
Thanks.
talk to
Yeah.
you later. Have a good night.